Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to another episode of Vote Voice Podcast, your go-to podcast for all things related to voting, democracy, and civic engagement. Hello, I'm your host, Donna Miller, and I'm thrilled to be with you today as we delve into an important topic, voter registration by mail. Now, before we get into that topic, I want to take a moment to talk about Vote Voice. First of all, Vote Voice is a grassroots nonprofit. We engage in voter education, voter registration, voter mobilization, and voter protection information to empower and remind citizens of their voting responsibilities. Now, that activities include voter education, and we're providing information on the importance of voting and the mechanics of how to vote. Like today, we're going to be talking about voter registration by mail. Voter registration. Again, we are assisting individuals in registering to vote. We do this by giving you instruction, by giving you access to the information on our website. We do this in voter registration rallies. We do this through texting and phone banking and through the podcast and all the different social medias outlets that we use. Voter mobilization is when we are encouraging and reminding voters to participate in elections. Voter protection information. We're offering information on voter rights and how to address issues at polling places. These efforts focus on reminding voters of election dates and primaries, advising voters how to make a voting plan, ensuring they know their polling locations, and we're providing a vote plan checklist and election protection hotline numbers. The objective for Vote Voice is to facilitate informed and effective voter participation without pushing a specific legislative agenda. Vote Voice is not attempting to influence legislation because our primary mission is to ensure that every eligible voter is able to vote and knows how to do so. Our goal is to promote civic engagement and enhance the democratic process by focusing on voter turnout rather than advocating for specific policies or legislative changes. It's important that we're neutral. It helps maintain our status as a nonpartisan organization, which is crucial for maintaining public trust and complying with regulations governing nonprofit organizations. We want to be involved in getting out the vote. Our objective is to increase voter participation. And our activities are registering voters, providing information on when, where, and how to vote, offering tools to help voters plan their voting day, and educating voters on their rights. Our focus is the process of voting itself, rather than the content of any specific policies or legislation. For example, we're reminding people of election dates, helping them find polling locations, and providing resources to ensure their vote is counted. Because we're concentrating on nonpartisan voter engagement, Vote Voice ensures it can reach a broad audience and encourage the democratic principles of widespread participation in elections, thereby strengthening the overall electoral process without divisive advocacy on specific legislative issues. That is who we are at Vote Voice. And I just want to go ahead and delve in now into registering by mail. And I don't think we talk about this much, and I don't think I have spoken about this at all. Now, I just want to take a moment and say hello to everyone who listens to Vote Voice all over the country. Thank you. Your being here, your support is what keeps me going. And I'm so happy that you're listening to us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and all the other platforms. We are so grateful for your commitment to the Vote Voice podcast. Now let's get started and talk about voting by mail. Okay, now you have to have a form to vote by mail. You can go to michigan.gov and pick up, and I think you can download that form at michigan.gov/vote. Now, you also use this form to change your name or address on your voter registration. Now, that's something we don't think about. It can save you time and money to use the internet to download this form and change your name and address when you're moving, or if you're married, newly married, I should say. Now, in order to register in Michigan, you must be a resident of Michigan and the city or township where you are applying to register to vote. You must be a citizen of the United States, and you must be at least 18 years of age by election day. And you can't be actually serving a sentence in jail or prison. Now, if you're waiting for a trial and you haven't been sentenced yet, you can still vote. So if, let's say your trial is up in May of next year, you can vote in November. Okay? And I wish you well on your legal endeavors. Now, your voter registration and driver's license address must be the same. Michigan law requires that the same address must be used for voter registration and driver's license purposes. Therefore, if the resident address you provide on this form differs from the address shown on a driver's license or personal identification card issued by the state of Michigan, the Secretary of State will automatically change your driver's license or personal identification card to match the resident's address entered on the form. If an address change is made, the Secretary of State will mail you an address update sticker for your driver's license or personal identification card. Now, every person residing in Michigan lives in either a city or a township. If you do not know the name of your city or township, please describe your location in the space provided for. It says, if no house number or street address. Providing cross streets, roads, and landmarks will help the clerk correctly identify your city or township. Now, when you print out this instruction, there on the back of the instruction for your voter registration card, which also acts, this application also is for driver's license and personal identification card changes. On the back, they have a list of all the city and townships. Now, you must sign and date in 2 spaces marked with an X. Now, the additional signature will be used to prepare a village voter registration record if needed. Your application is not valid until accepted by the clerk of the city or township which you reside. So if you have questions or do not receive a voter ID card within 3 weeks, contact your city or township clerk. And they're usually very good about getting that information out. So if within 3 weeks you don't have it, something is wrong, because you will have that information in a timely manner. Now, if you prefer to receive mail related to your voter registration or your driver's license and personal identification card at an address other than your residential address, you have to provide a mailing address where it's indicated on the form. If you provide a mailing address, it will not appear on your voter ID card, or driver's license, or personal identification card. So if you have a post office box, of course, you want to give them that address, or granny's address, whichever other address you're going to use. If you believe that someone has interfered with your right to register, or to decline to register to vote, or your right to privacy in deciding whether to register or apply to register to vote, you can file a complaint with the Secretary of State in your area. And here in Michigan, you can do that. A voter registration application must be completed by the close of registration for an upcoming election in order to be effective for that election. If the application is not completed by the close of registration for the next election, it will be effective for future elections. So it's important to pay attention to deadlines when it comes to registration. I know it may seem like everybody's nitpicking, but all of the voter education nonprofit organizations are really, really big on letting you know when the beginning and end of that registration period is, so that you don't miss it, so that you may vote in the upcoming election. Now, completed applications must be received or postmarked by the close of registration for an upcoming election in order to be effective for that application. If the application is not submitted in time for the close of registration for the next election, it will be effective for future elections. Now, you notice I'm telling you that a couple of times. Now, completed applications must be received or postmarked by the close of registration. Okay, let me just go down to the next one. Now, if you have ever voted in Michigan and choose to submit a form by mail, you must. I'm sorry, let me go back. I said that incorrectly. If you have never voted in Michigan before and you submit your voter registration application by mail, you must appear in person to vote in the first election in which you wish to participate. Okay, now, this requirement does not apply if you personally hand deliver the form to your county, city, or township clerk's office instead of mailing the form, or if you're 60 years of age or more, disabled, or you are eligible to vote under the Uniform and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act. If you have never voted in Michigan and choose to submit a form by mail, you must also meet an identification requirement provided under federal law. Now, to comply with the identification requirement, you must correctly enter your state-issued driver's license number or personal ID card number where requested on the form, or send one of the following forms of identification when mailing this form to your county, city, or township clerk. Now, when you get ready to mail your form, you're going to get a copy. You must make a copy of a current and valid photo identification, such as a driver's license or personal ID card, or a copy of a paycheck stub, utility bill, bank statement, or a government document which lists your name and address. They ask you not to send original documents by mail. So if you do not have a driver's license or a state ID, then you have your utility bill, you have a pay stub, you have a bank statement, or any other government document, your Social Security letter, anything from any local state government, you can go ahead and send that in. Now, if you are subject to the identification requirement and do not meet the requirement as explained, an acceptable form of identification will be requested before you vote in the first election. Now, the identification requirement does not apply if you personally hand deliver this form to your county, city, our township clerk's office instead of mailing this form. Are you disabled? Or you are eligible to vote under the Uniform and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act. Wow, that was a mouthful, wasn't it? It is so important that we understand how to register to vote. We have upcoming elections, and it's important that we get out and vote. Now, I know not everybody will vote, and I know that not everyone wants to vote. But here at Vote Voice, we have dedicated ourselves to the cause of voter engagement, and we work towards that. Because I do believe that voting shouldn't be seen as a chore. It should be a part of our lives. And we need to understand that voting is our voice. Now, it's important that we become informed about how to register to vote, not only for ourselves, but for others. Help with this by telling your friends and family how to vote and just reminding them. You can register to vote by mail. I think that voting is important. I think that you should make a plan to vote. You're going to make sure your registration is up to date. You're going to make sure your friends ask them if they know if their registration is up to date. You're going to know if you're going to vote by mail, if you're going to vote early, which here in Michigan is by mail. And you're going to know if you're going to a polling place, and you should know where your polling place is anyway. You're going to make sure you know what date the registration deadlines are, what date the early voting periods are, and what day is election day. And believe me, we'll be out there telling you. You're going to make sure you have the necessary ID and materials. You're going to make sure you can make an informed choice. Know who's running. You're going to share your plans, encourage friends and family to create their plans also. Listen, you can go to votevoice.com and download our free vote plan checklist. Share this checklist with family and friends and remind them to vote. It's a great way to ensure everyone is prepared and confident on Election Day. I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of Vote Voice. Remember, your vote is your voice, and every voice counts. Make your plan to vote. Until next time, this is Donna Miller. Stay informed, stay engaged, and keep your vote voiced.